Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. We've got a lot to talk about today. We've got, oh man, players out due to health and safety protocols. We've got some teams getting in a little bit of trouble with the NBA, some punishments handed out, lots of stuff to get into. And Keith, again, thank you so much. We didn't plan this, but we're bringing balance to the force. I'm in the middle
There
of
it
doing a
is.
bunch of Lakers things, so I still have my Lakers stuff on right now. And I was happy that when we hopped on this call, you are in your Celtics gear. So we're evening out the playing field here. I like it.
Yeah, I threw on a long sleeve shirt because it's like 65 degrees in our home office here.
Oh,
So I
heaven
wanted
forbid.
to be a little bit warmer than that. Yeah, here we are. But as you said, balance to the force. We're good. So we're in a good spot.
All right. So I guess the big news that came out just within the last hour was that the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls both got their wrists slapped by the NBA.
Yeah, wrist
Finally,
tapped.
just tapped. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
slap
lost.
seat.
They each lose a second round pick, their next available second round pick, because of, well, essentially what is tampering technically, right? For conducting business outside of the actual window when you're supposed to, because they knew that they executed fairly complicated sign and trades within minutes of the free agency buzzer actually sounding, which very clearly they were talking before the buzzer sounded. So,
Yeah.
I mean, is this, what does this even mean though? Like, is this enough of a deterrent to where in the future teams will go, oh, a second round pick, we definitely shouldn't do this? Or should the NBA have come down a little bit more heavy handed here?
Yeah, it's so there's a couple things here. One is, let's just to be clear, this is their true next second round picks that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Normally in these spots, teams have been punished with their own pick loss. And in this case, both of these teams don't have their own second round pick for a while. So it's going to be whatever ones that they have coming in. And they both have picks that could be coming to them.
Mm-hmm.
It gets kind of complicated because there's protections attached. There's
Sure.
if this, then this kind of things attached to these teams. So next time that they're scheduled to have a second round pick, they won't. Now, leading to the punishment portion of it, no, it doesn't. I mean, I just said neither one of these teams have their own second round pick for a
Yeah.
while. So they both clearly don't really care, right? They're
About
both
second
kind of,
rounders.
whatever, let's, move these in trades or adding them into stuff and tossing them in and all kinds of things like that. So it really becomes a thing here where it's, what is the actual punishment here? The Milwaukee Bucks got punished harder for the Bogdanovich situation. Now, that happened way further in advance as far as we know with the
Right.
timeline and all those things, but it was just as complicated with sign and trade involved and all these other things. But they lost a pick and they got fined. So I imagine the Bucks probably have some questions here of, hey, why is there no fine
Right.
also being attached to these two teams? But yeah, I don't, my guess is if I was the Bulls or the Heat and I'm happy with the players I have and how my season's gone, you're kind of saying like, yeah,
Worth it.
what is it the kid says in the Mighty Ducks too, where he says he gets sent to the penalty box, the kid from Team Iceland, and he's like
Oh, yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
minutes,
3 minutes,
well
well worth
worth
it.
it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
right. So
That's right.
so they're probably
Good
like
reference.
6, well worth it,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's this is it's that's why I said it's a tap on the wrist, not even a slap on the wrist.
And then did you see, and you mentioned, Milwaukee and them feeling maybe a little bit upset here. The NBA said, well, it's because they cooperated fully with the investigation. Does that then imply that Milwaukee didn't?
Yeah,
I don't know, but then Miami puts out like, you lost a second round pick, and Miami from their team account tweets out, while we disagree, we accept the league's decision and we are moving on with our season. You disagree with what? Are you saying you
yeah.
didn't? You didn't break the rules in contacting Kyle Lowry ahead of time? Because if that's the case, then you must operate at just light speed. There's no way that you can disagree that you broke the rules here. So do you disagree with the punishment? You got off easy on the punishment. Get out of here, Miami. There's no way that this can be a real feeling within Miami. If anything, they've got to be going, yes, we got away with it.
Yeah, I also think too what's funny, and somebody said, why is Toronto not being in New Orleans, not being somewhat
Mm-hmm.
punished here too? Because they clearly took part with these as sign and trades. Now, you could say if you were the Heat or the Bulls was, hey, we agreed to the parameters of we're going to get the player on these deals. And
Right.
then we worked out the sign-in trades after because you can't even actually make the trade until the moratorium's over and all those kind of things. So that's why, the Raptors and Pelicans don't need to be punished here. Here's the bigger thing for me is I'm going to beat this drum until whatever
Hmm.
is let free agents, as soon as their seasons end, talk to other teams,
Yeah.
pending free agents. So in this case, Kyle Lowry, Raptors don't make the playoffs, season is over. Kyle Lowry and his agent can start talking to other teams. Who is that hurting? It's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
It's your team season is over. You can't even say, "Oh, it's a distraction to the Raptors." Well, a distraction from what? Vacation? Like it doesn't matter. And I'm not picking on the Raptors here. Goes for anybody. I firmly believe that when your season is over, if you're a pending free agent, you should be able to talk to another team. Now, if you have an option, nope, get that option exercise. If there's a
Right.
team option, well, then the team has the control there. You can't do anything until that's exercised or not exercised or whatever. But if you're just straight free agent, you want to talk to somebody else, go ahead. No issue at all from me with that.
Now, I think the challenge with that, and this is the one kind of hiccup I see, because mostly I agree, because I think the way things are right now is ridiculous. I think that the way it's set up currently, the NBA is essentially saying, we know it's happening because everybody's doing it. Just don't
Yep.
throw it in our face, right? That's the
Yeah.
way it's set up right now. Like, we're just going to turn a blind eye to it unless you make it painfully obvious that you broke the rules. Then we're going to punish you, right? So break the rules, just don't do it obviously. That's really what we're at right now. So I like your idea. However, doesn't that put impending free agents who go on deep playoff runs at a disadvantage? Like, think about what happened with Dennis Schroeder, where the money dried up, there were no longer spots. If teams continue to agree with players, and there's a guy on a team who goes all the way to the championship, there might be no more money out there by the time that guy hits free
Yeah,
agency if they can
I
come to those
guess.
agreements.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, just let them talk,
Sure.
and I know talking leads to an agreement, so
Yeah.
I'm not being naive here. There's got to be a fix beyond
Yes.
just, hey, don't do it, or we're gonna come down hard and you'll lose 2 picks you don't really want anyway.
There's
I just think it's kind of whatever. The whole thing, I just think is kind of silly to this point. It's it is what it is.
it's
It's.
it's hard to police it too. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't want to be Big Brother. The NBA doesn't want to be Big Brother. Oh, did these two players talk? If so, we need to find them. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to police that player to player, tampering, if we want to call it that. Teams are going to talk to players ahead of time because they kind of have to. Because if they're not, the other team is, and the other teams are going to get an advantage on them. So it's a really fine line here. They also don't want just say it's a free for all. And then in the game in January, you've got representatives from another team trying to talk to a player after a game or
sure.
something like that. It could get very messy the other way too. So there's no easy solution here, but the bottom line, I guess, in terms of this story, just to sum it all up, Miami and the Chicago, they probably got off a little bit light here, and I don't think this is going to do anything to dissuade anybody else from
No.
doing it in the future.
And the last thing I'll say on it too is whatever you set the deadline at, people are going to jump that
Mm-hmm.
deadline anyway. It doesn't, it really becomes, unless the NBA gets very serious and starts saying, all right, hey, in this case, Pat Riley, front office, you're suspended for a year, or you
Yeah.
lose multiple first round picks, or we're going to invalidate the signings, which we knew that was never going to happen
Yeah.
because we're already a month and a half into the new season. We knew that wasn't going to be the way it goes. Unless you really want to get serious and start doing things like that, teams are going to keep doing this. And the reality is, just like I've always said, is I don't care about tampering. It's not a thing that bothers me. I don't like when it's a guy who's under multi-year
Sure.
contract is locked in. Then that's ridiculous. We should not be having that. But if it's guy who's going to be a free agent, whatever, that's it there. I've already said more than my piece. Let's move on to another set of sad stories.
Oh, let's do it. LeBron James falls under NBA health and safety protocols. We later found out that he did test positive for COVID. First found out from TMZ, and then found out from Anthony Davis after
TMZ breaking NBA news.
Right.
All over
That's
the place
that's
all
what I
of
was
a
thinking.
sudden.
Like, think about this, Keith. Think about this dynamic. You've got Woj and Shams that are in this eternal struggle, right? Just this knockdown, drag out fight all season, every season to who can break the news the fastest.
Like
You've
the
got the
Highlanders, right? There
yeah,
can only
right.
be one. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly, exactly. And then right, this big story comes out that's about LeBron James, and so it's got a little bit more like it's a little bit more of a broad story that's going to
Sure.
apply to a lot of different fields, not just the NBA. And it's like TMZ just steps in the middle of this Woj versus Shams battle and just says, okay, kids, calm down. We've got this. Like, how does TMZ have not only that he tested positive, but how many tests he took before Woj and Shams have any of this? And TMZ isn't known for like NBA news breaking or whatever. Incredible. Just amazing stuff.
It tells me, Trevor, that you and I are missing the boat. We're like, why are we not tweeting with sources tell TMZsports.com that, blah, blah, blah. Like there it is. We need to get on that, get in that news breaking game there. But
Apparently.
I mean, I mean, I know you've already covered it and you're probably tired of it already. But, another blow for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be without LeBron for, 10 days. I think I read somewhere, I think it's 4 or 5 games in that time, probably
Three.
4 games, I think it was
They've
in
got
that 10-day period.
it's actually a crazy light schedule, which is
Oh,
weird.
okay.
They don't play again till Friday. So
Got
there
it.
was the game last night against the Kings. They have Friday against the Clippers, and then the following Tuesday
Against the Celtics.
against the Celtics, and then they don't play again. I think until December 9th, which would be 10 days,
Okay.
and that's against the Grizzlies. But there are some rules in there too that if he tests negative twice in a 24-hour period, that can change.
Yeah, because
So
that's basically it was a false positive. Like
right.
that's kind of the cover there. Yeah, because you want to make sure if a guy says, there, Anthony Davis did follow up, said he talked to LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron said he was asymptomatic,
Yeah.
Which is good because we've heard it go the other way. Joel Embiid
Embiid just talked about
recently
it. Yeah.
when he returned said, he had it really bad and, it was really in rough shape. So yeah, it's, first and foremost, anybody who tests positive, let's hope for the best health wise
Absolutely.
for them. We want, that, but yeah, another blow for the Lakers, just as the schedule starts getting a little bit tougher for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been kind of underplayed a little bit in their struggles to open the year. They opened with a fairly easy schedule,
Yep.
a very home heavy schedule as well. So those are a couple of things to just kind of, if you're banking on get guys back, we're really going to take off. Not saying that it's not going to happen, but it's not as easy as that because there are other factors that are going to come into play
Absolutely.
as well. But yeah, it's dude, let's see where this goes again. And clearly the 25 point or whatever it was drubbing of the Kings shows they're better off without LeBron anyway. So you probably should be looking at a trade.
Just trade him. Just trade him, right? Yeah, they're better without him.
Yeah, no doubt.
He was not the only one though.
Not the only one. Yeah, unfortunately.
We got Austin Rivers, Bones Highland, aka best nickname in the NBA, Justin Holiday, Kobe White, all in health and safety protocols right now. I don't know if this is a seasonal thing, if it's the time of year. We have seen illnesses go up. You and I were talking about this a little bit before we came on here. It's kind of the time of year when people start to get sick in general because more people are spending time inside and closely together because the weather gets colder, gets to, a balmy 65 and they're in Florida. And so people wind up getting sick this time of year. It's just kind of what happens. So I don't know if this is a seasonal thing, if this is the effect of the vaccines that they had starting to wane a little bit as they get further and further from that vaccination date. We also know the NBA is promoting the booster among NBA players. And Frank Vogel confirmed that the Lakers went to a meeting about it and all the benefits of the booster were explained to all the players and all of that sort of stuff. But this is, it's not great. Not great to see this many players going under health and safety protocol right now.
Yeah, Jeff Stotts, who is at In Street Clothes on Twitter, you must follow if you're an NBA fan. Anytime there's an injury or illness thing, he usually is right on it with he has this massive database of injuries, and he'll go into it and find out, players with X injury, generally the return is, X amount of weeks or months or days, and that usually results in X amount of games missed. This was what he tweeted. Over the last week, 19 players have appeared on NBA injury reports for illnesses, COVID and non-COVID. So that's a lot of guys. The
Hmm.
Celtics just had the flu kind of run through their locker room. The
Yep.
Timberwolves are going through that right now. It is flu season, so before we're not going to debate vaccines and
Sure.
vaccine science and
Right.
all that stuff on this show. But flu season's been a thing where the vast majority of NBA players were given flu shots
Yeah.
in years past. Now, I would assume that's probably the same, but we don't know. One thing we do know that came out of that whole story about the boosters, the NBA, because it's a big pool of people, took part in some studies for science reasons on the kind of the efficacy of
Hmm.
vaccines and whatnot. And one of the things that came out, 97% of players are now vaccinated. So
Mm.
we're a pretty high
Wow.
number of NBA players. We know at least a couple notable ones that are not. So it is what it is with that. But yeah, so I think you're right. I think it's probably a combination of we've got a lot of things floating around in the world right now, just kind of more normal, if you will, illnesses that are around every year. And
Hmm.
then also, yeah, it could be some of the effects of the vaccine if you got to have waned, and that's why, as you stated, teams are saying, hey, let's get the booster shots and let's go. So my guess is we'll start seeing those, and then what we may see is, I know when I got my booster shot, I would because I had to bow out on doing the show
Yeah.
for a day. I was down and out for a whole day. Like I was really not feeling very good. So, but better that for one day than what the alternative was. At least in my opinion, I will
Now,
state
let
that.
me ask, and maybe this is an aside from what we're discussing here as far as NBA players, but did you also bounce back pretty quickly? Like, I haven't done the
Yeah,
booster yet. I got vaccinated, but I also found that on the second shot that I got, I felt pretty crummy for about 6 or 7 hours, and then it was like, boom, like flip a light switch, and suddenly I was 100% again.
yeah. I got the booster and the flu shot at the same time, and it was about 24 hours. I didn't
Okay.
feel too hot. It took a little bit to kick in. I got it in about the middle of the day around lunchtime. It was that evening. All of a sudden, I didn't feel too good. I didn't feel great. Didn't get a good night's sleep that night. The next day, I didn't feel very good. But by the next like late afternoon, I was back to feeling fine. So yeah, it was about a 1 day thing. So if you see somebody pop up and they're out for a game, it could, wouldn't be a
Sure.
surprise if that happens after some guys get the boosters. And teams are, again, you'd rather have that than
Oh,
10 days
absolutely.
missed, in
Yes.
the health and
Yeah.
safety protocols.
And obviously that's it, just that's a very tiny, and that's the smallest sample size you can get, right? But just
Yeah.
just for NBA purposes, if that is
Yes.
indeed the norm, that you feel kind of crummy for a day or whatever, and then you bounce back very quickly, that would tell us that, like you said, maybe a player, it could come to the point where they miss a game or something like that because they're feeling so down. That's possible, but we would expect them to bounce back pretty quickly from it.
And the vast majority of NBA players are in far better shape than I am, and ability to bounce back quicker than I am. And by vast majority, I mean 100% of players who have any possibility of playing in the NBA anytime now, and let's say within the last 20 or so years. We'll go back in time as well.
But moving on, we've got Bob Iger interested in purchasing the Suns. Robert Sarver
Yeah,
still dealing with his situation there, where they're still under investigation. But Bob Iger interested in purchasing the Suns, so the Suns could have a new ownership group coming in. We'll see. Again, just somebody being interested doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that
sure.
something is going to happen. But still, given the situation right now, interesting that a name is already popping up.
Yeah, why I think this is maybe a little more notable than just, hey, rich guy wants to own sports team, right?
Right.
Because a lot of them do. Is Bob Iger is extremely close with Adam Silver and the other NBA owners due to ESPN being a broadcast partner for the NBA. He was obviously a massive part of getting the bubble done with the NBA as
Mm-hmm.
well at Walt Disney World. So that is part one. Part two is, and clearly this wouldn't be a big thing because as great as Chris Paul is playing right now, that his career has a shelf life of some indeterminate value that's probably within the next 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
So hopefully Bob Iger wouldn't be buying a team based on that, but he is very close with Chris Paul as well. That was again another big part of getting the bubble done, with Paul being in the players union at the time, the president of the players union. So yeah, that is that's something that's interesting. We'll see where the Sarver investigation goes. We don't want to get too deep into it, but there's a lot of details coming out now that there are people who they can't or won't speak right now because
Mhm.
they have NDAs. So the NBA is looking into what does that look like to get those, overridden or whatever it is. There's been reporting from Baxter Holmes, who broke the story initially for ESPN, that there are folks who, even if they don't have an NDA or they're unclear, they don't want to speak because they're afraid to what might happen to their jobs. And that's not to him. This is to the investigators
Right.
that are been assigned by the NBA. So we'll see where this all goes. But my thing is, if there's a situation where it is, hey, Robert Sarver, we've got somebody lined up already who's going to give you, at this point, we can assume probably close to $2 billion. That seems to be the low end going rate for a team.
Mhm.
Do you want out? And that may make things a little bit easier versus a whole force him out kind of story or anything
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Speaking of the Suns, they did win their big matchup with
Yeah.
the Golden State Warriors, and they did it without Devin Booker for a large chunk of it. Had his hamstring tightened up, and we know the way those kinds of injuries can linger. So hopefully
Mhm.
Booker is able to recover from that. But big win for the Suns. What is this now? Is that 18 in a row?
17.
17 in a row, almost on to 18. So 17 in a row
Yep.
for the Phoenix Suns. Incredible stuff. Great run. And that was, I can tell you this, from flipping back and forth a little bit, from especially the first half of Lakers versus Kings to Suns versus Warriors, it was like watching two different sports in terms of
Yeah.
the level of basketball that was being played.
Yep. Yeah, could not agree more. Yeah, it really did look very different with that. It almost looked like the stark difference between if you're an avid NBA watcher then turning on a college game. Like it
Yes.
almost kind of looked like that. Yeah, the Suns are I said this morning they're kind of like a machine right
Yeah.
now. On both ends of the floor. They just kind of do their thing. They're so locked in defensively. You have to really be able to switch and hold your own against the Warriors quite a bit if you're going to defend them well. They can really do that. As you said, Booker went out after playing just 15 minutes, but Cam Johnson came in and had a nice game off the bench. Landry Shamet did well. Mikal Bridges had one of those games where if you looked at the box score, you're probably like, oh, yeah, he didn't play that good. And he was dominant
Yeah.
defensively, did
Defense. Yeah.
everything except score. Which was great to see there. And DeAndre Ayton was just a monster inside. The Warriors had nothing for him. Now on the Warriors side, Steph shot terribly. He was only 4 for 21 from the field in this one. And then we'll see Andrew Wiggins wasn't feeling good. I think there was something going on with him. I want to maybe his back or something like that.
I
Uh,
think so. I'd have to dig in. Let me look.
yeah, I think it was his back. And he didn't look very good. Draymond Green did play fairly well. Jordan Poole played great. But let's see, we're going to get this matchup again on Friday. So let's hope, we get just as fun a game there. I will own up to, I was so excited for this game. I texted you
Yeah.
earlier in the evening that I could barely keep my eyes open. Our puppy has decided he's not going to sleep through the night anymore. And I was really struggling. I don't even know that I saw the end of the first quarter.
Oh, no.
So I watched the game in full this morning on the DVR. I watched that one, and then I watched as much of the Lakers Kings game as I could tolerate, which to be quite honest was not much. It was
It
and not because the Lakers won. It just was not a good game.
it
It
got
was
better after the first half.
yeah,
Just in terms of the Lakers playing a little bit more competently. And of course, a lot of that is my own, Lakers bias coming in. The game got better because the
sure.
Lakers started winning, of course. But we did see some more things that started to get executed in the second half. But again,
Yeah,
I don't
it
blame you. I
was
don't blame you
midway
if you
through
couldn't get through
the
the first half.
yeah, it was probably I don't know. It was around the 8-9 minute mark, I think, of the fourth quarter. There was like, I don't need to watch any more of
Yeah,
this. I'm not at that point when you're trying to watch as many games as the two of us do, so it'll kind of peek behind the curtain. You have to bail on games because you
because you
can't.
can't. It's
Yeah, you're
impossible
not.
to watch them
Yeah,
all.
exactly. Now, if it's the teams we cover, the Celtics or the Lakers, we're in it till the end
Hmm.
because you got to watch the whole thing. And
For better or
and
for
I know
worse.
you probably get the same thing I do. I get the, hey, how did Bruno Fernando look? And
Yeah.
in the 4 minutes of garbage time he played, right? You get the same kind of stuff on
Yep.
your end and those kind of things. So you got to watch all the way to the end. But but when it's just watching a neutral game, yeah, I'm out if it's not going well.
And Andrew Wiggins, it is indeed a back issue with
Yeah,
him.
that's what I thought it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Uh,
he didn't look good the way he was kind of moving around.
And last thing for today, just to kind of put a bow on everything, Jayson Suggs still out for a while, but will not need surgery. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely a good thing there. Fractured right thumb. The bummer is he can't he's not even going to be able to shoot
Yeah.
the entire time he's out. So that's going to be tough there. We talked about it yesterday when we knew he was hurt, that it just sucks because he was really starting to find his way, and really, really play well. So, yeah, just really rough.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel very good with that one. So I want to end on a fun note
Oh,
here. I tweeted this
okay.
earlier, but on this date in 2001, Paul Pierce scored 46 points in the second half in overtime to lead the Celtics to a comeback victory over the Nets. And that was a little bit of foreshadowing because later that summer, Paul Pierce led a massive comeback in the playoffs against the Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals as a 2002 Celtics team. That is a very special team for me because that was the team, that was when I moved here to
Oh,
Florida permanently. So as I was moving, I was really missing home. I was really struggling with that. And that Celtics team was something I gravitated to, really attached myself to. And that was my link to home for a while. It was my reason to call my friends and all those kind of things. And that who were all still there at home, kind of living through it. And I was already off here in Florida. So special memories of Paul Pierce and that Celtics group.
so some fond memories of that team. Obviously, I've got some fond memories from 2001 as well. But that was, Paul Pierce was an incredible player, and that was a night where he did not poop his pants.
Yeah, yeah. Hey,
Sorry,
Paul
I had
Pierce
to,
might have pooped his
had to go
pants.
there.
Paul Pierce might have pooped his pants all the way to a title. That's all I know. Should have pooped his pants 2 years later too.
If it wasn't for Kendrick Perkins being out, man, let me tell you.
Do you know what kills me on that whole situation is that KG got hurt that second year because
Mm.
they were better the second year
Oh, the year
than they were the
Orlando got
first year.
through.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
year Orlando got through. I mean, they almost beat Orlando anyway,
Mm.
without everybody. I mean, that series was so stupid against Orlando, how many injuries Boston had, that I literally remember saying to one of my friends he is a diehard Magic fan. I was like, man, I hope Brian Scalabrine can go tonight because otherwise the Celtics are screwed. And I'm not being sarcastic or trying to be funny. That was an actual statement because that's how injured they were. And
That's
then
where you were at.
it came out after that when they lost that game 7 to the Magic, one of the rare game 7 home losses the Celtics have ever had in Boston. It came out after that Ray Allen and Paul Pierce would not have been able to play in the East Finals because they were both too injured. It was a elbow for Pierce and Ray Allen's ankle. So they came out and said they weren't going to be able to play. So it's probably for the best that they did lose that series. But man, that team was, I'll never forget it. They threw a lob to KG, went up for the lob in transition in Utah, and came down and couldn't come back. His knee, whatever he did to his knee, and they kept saying he's going to be back, he's going to be back, he's going to be back, all the way until the season ended. And they're like, yeah, he was never coming back.
He's not coming back.
Yeah, so that's one where I feel like we never get the real decision, right? Like
Yeah.
we got in 2008, we got in 2010, we missed out in 2009 because they absolutely would have been those two teams again.
That would have been a lot of fun. The rubber match, as it were.
And now we just turned off 28 other fans.
Yeah, everybody's like, click, we're not. But those of you who are left, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications as well. All right, guys. Appreciate all of you joining us. Till next time, everybody. See ya. And please stay safe.